This is Amud Yomi Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Ches Amud Aleph, or Amud Ches Amud Aleph. We pick it up at the bottom of Zayin Amud Beis, the two dots, 5 lines from the bottom. Says the Gemara Gufa. Amar Rav Chisda Noatz Kana B'Rishus HaYachid V'Zarak V'Nachal Gabav Afilu Gva Me'ama Chayif. We said above that if there's a pole stuck in the ground and you throw something on top of it, even if that pole is 100 Amo is tall, one is still chayiv. Why? Mimnei sherishos hayachid oile ad lira kia. Says the Gemara. 1 second. So we have a pole. I throw something on top of it. It lands on top of the pole. I'm chayiv. Lemo Rav Chisda Damar Karebi. It sounds like Rav Chisda holds like Rebbe. Who's Rebbe? The Tanya. We learned in a brisa. Zarak v'nach al gabav ziz kolshu. Excuse me. If someone throws something and it lands on a ziz, a small protrusion, a kolshu, a little bit. Rabbi mechayv chacham paitre. Al malabi inan makam arba arba. So what do we see? See, Rebbe holds you can be chayiv even if the item lands not on a large dalet by dalet area, even if it lands on a little ziz. So says the Gemara, it sounds like Rav Chisda holds the same. It's landing on top of a pole, so it sounds like as well it is not dalet by dalet. Continues the Gemara on the top of Ches Amud Aleph. Amar Abaye b'Rishus HaYachid Dikuli Amalei Pligi Kid Rav Chisda. In Rishus HaYachid, everyone agrees with Rav Chisda that what? The item does not have to rest on something dalet by dalet. Elahacha. But in the case of Rabbi and the Chachamim, it's a different machlokes. Be'ilanay Rishus HaYachid, v'nay Rishus HaRabim. We have a tree in Rishus HaYachid, and the branches are leaning over into Rishus HaRabim. And it lands on the branch. The Rabbi Savar. We view the branches by the trunk. So says Abaye, we cannot make these two machlokes have anything to do with each other, because when it comes to our case, you're in the Rishus HaYachid. Everyone will agree it does not have to land on a place dalet by dalet. The machlokes Rebbe and the Chachamim was a different machlokes entirely. The machlokes Rebbe and the Chachamim was what? Was when it lands on the ziz, but that's a sidebar machlokes if we view the branches as where the tree is or not. Amar Abaye, 2 dots, 5 lines down, Ches Amud Aleph. Zara kaveres. If someone throws a basket or Rishus HaRabim into Rishus HaRabim, Gavaya Asara, Ve'en Rachava Shisha. The basket is 10 tefachim tall, but it's not 6 tefachim wide. Chayiv, he's chayiv for throwing this basket into Rishus HaRabim. Rachava Shisha, but if it is 6 tefachim wide, then potter. Then he's potter. Why is he potter? So we glance here at Rashi. Rashi explains to us towards the end of the narrow lines. Rachava ba potter. Why? Because once this item is 20 tvachim tall by 6 tvachim wide, tavish rishos la'atzma. It is a rishos. I have this massive box. Oh, not so massive. This is about 36, 6 tvachim wide. It's about 36 inches wide. It's 3 feet wide by 10 tefachim tall, which is about 5 feet tall. A pretty big box, 3 feet by 5 feet. And you throw it, you're not chayiv. Why not? Says Rashi, Vanan mi Mishkan Gamrinon. Because the whole halacha v'yitzah we know is from the Mishkan. Sheyazarkin machteya mimlachtan zelazeh. They threw their needles back and forth. V'layazarkin rishuyos, and they didn't throw a whole rishos. So once an area is so big that it's considered a rishos, it's considered a property, an area unto itself, you're not chayiv for throwing it for throwing it into Rishus HaRabim. Rashi is a kasha, but like v'asar nami Rishus la'atzma. It's a karmelis la'medraisu Rishus al-merabanan v'lo hilkel al-devitayra. Okay, let's leave that for now. Rava Amar, says Rava, afilu ein rachava shisha, even if it's not 6 tefachim wide, still you're potter. Why are you potter? My taima. Actually, karumi shel kana shelo yale lamala me'asara. Says Rava, you know why? Because it's impossible that the little slivers of the reeds, it's a reed basket, extend above 10 tfachim. And what's 10 tfachim? 10 tfachim is the area that's no longer Rosh Hashanah. So when you throw an item which is 10 tfachim tall, says Rava, Be'etzem, ostensibly, it's going to have to exit a little bit out of Rosh Hashanah. Therefore, says Rava, there's no chiyuv when something, as you move it, leaves the Rosh Hashanah entirely. Says the Gemara, Kafal Biyah. What happens if you flip the basket over and you throw it face down? Meaning, what was the whole problem? Was the top of the basket had these little pieces sticking up, so when you throw it, it's going to go out of the Shirab. That's what Rava said, you're a pot. But if you flip it upside down, now what's the din? Says the Gemara, Shiva umashahu. Even if the basket is not a full 10 tvachim, it's only 7 tvachim, you're going to be chayiv. Shiva umersa, but if it's going to be 7.5, then potter. Why is it going to be potter if it's 7.5? Because we know that we have a din of lavud. So once it's going to be 7.5, the top of the basket is going to be considered to be above 10 tvachim, which is out of the Rosh Hashanah, and therefore he's going to be potter. Rav Ashi Amar, afilu shiva mechsa chayiv my taima, b'chitzas l'toichan asurais. The basket walls are made for the inside and not for the outside, and therefore we would not have a din of love, but a chiddush in lavud. We would think lavud doesn't care why it's there for. It says Rav Ashi, no, when you flip this basket upside down, the walls of the basket are to meet something inside of it. So when it's upside down, there would be no lavud in that case. We continue. Amar Ula, the two dots smack in middle of an Amid teaches Ula. Amud Tisha Rosh Hashanah. If I have a pole 9 tfachim tall in Rosh Hashanah, the Rabbim mikatvin alav, and people use this pole to adjust their items they're holding. They're holding a big load, and there's a pole they sort of rest it on there to adjust it. And vizarik v'nachal gabav, someone throws an item and it lands on the pole. What's the halacha? Teaches Ulam chayiv. He is chayiv because the pole is considered shesarabim. My taima. Pachas mishlaisha. Something that is less than 3 tfachim. Midjas darsilei rabim. People walk over. Bishlaisha vatisha. From 3 until 9 tvachim. Loi midjas darsi. People don't walk over it, but look at tufei mechtafi. People don't use it to adjust their loads. And therefore, it's not part of Rosh Hashanah because it's not a functioning part of Rosh Hashanah. But Tisha, once a ball becomes 9 tfachim, a bit of an irony over here. You would think it's bigger. It's for sure not Rosh Hashanah. And therefore, because it has a usage which is part of Rosh Hashanah, that's the chiddush. Because this item has a usage which is part of Rosh Hashanah, therefore, it contains and it maintains its din of Rosh Hashanah, and therefore, one would be chayiv if you throw something and it lands on top of it. Amar le Abaya le Rav Yosef, says Abaya, Guma mahi. What about the flip side? You're telling me you have a pole 9 tvachim tall. What if I have a ditch, a hole 9 tvachim deep? Amar le v'chem beguma. The same din is true, but Rav Amar no. Beguma lo my taima. Tashis le'edei lo shmi tashis. It's true. People use this hole that's in the street, but says Rava. It's only used al yedei atzchak. It's only used with difficulty, and therefore it does not maintain the din of a Rosh Hashanah. Eisir Rav Adabar Masal Rava. There was a box in Rosh Hashanah. Kavayasar Urachavarba. Ein metaltalin. Lay metechel Rosh Hashanah netaycham. Pachs became if it's less than 10 by 4. Then metaltalin. you're allowed to carry it. V'chein beguma, and so to buy a hole. So it says Rav Ada asking on Rava, my lava seifa. When it says v'chein beguma, is it talking about an area that is not 10 by 4? And we're learning that it does not have a din of, that it still has a din of Rosh Hashanah. Akash and you, Rava, and you said that a guma does not have a din of Rosh Hashanah. Says Marloi, it's going back in the ratio, and it is 10 by 4. Eisvei, ask the Gemara as we turn over to Chesam and Beis. No, we'll stop over here. So again, we have a machlek as Rava and Ula. Ula said that when they have a pole 9 tvachim tall, since people use it, it's considered Shirabim and you're going to be Chayiv. And Rav Yosef told Abaya that by a guma it's the same din. And Rava said no. Rava said when it comes to a guma, when it comes to a hole, does not have a din of Rosh Hashanah. Why not? Because Tashmish Ayadei Chak, Loi Shmei Tashmish. We thought we had a kasha the Braisa. The Gemara says not a kasha. We'll pick it up from here when we'll continue asking Rava Mirza Hashem.